No one on the talkative or the thinking side, but an individual that could level an entire city simply by running through it. Of course, we're talking about Kane Marco, aka the Juggernaut, who made his debut in the Deadpool sequel, an outing that could mean a lot of things for his future, when his next appearance could happen, but also the rumors of him getting his own project leaning more and more closely towards the truth. The Deadpool sequel was probably an even better depiction of the world in which the Immerse with a mouth lives in when compared to the first movie. And even though Ryan Reynolds' character portrayal of Deadpool was by far the best part of the movie, the story itself was quite compelling, with a lot of side characters worthy of mentioning. Some of them walking a thin line between superhero and villain, but all superpowered individuals who were at all times ready to shine. However, there was one character that was hard to miss, and he came in the flesh of Kane Marco, or better known as the Juggernaut, who made his debut in the sequel and the one to shepherd in the third act of Deadpool's fourth wall-breaking follow-up. The movie did a very good job for the character. It simply had to, as Juggernaut's history in the comics is quite a thing. The villains of the piece were hell-bent on rounding up all the mutants that were deemed too dangerous and were misbehaving with all of them who were too volatile for the Essex Academy to handle, being shipped off to a remote facility known as the Icebox. In said Icebox, Deadpool, Fire Fist, and the others became aware of a monster being kept in the most secure section of the building, or so the people running it thought. The monster at hand was actually Juggernaut, a character that fans expected to see much sooner. And if you didn't know, Ryan Reynolds actually voiced the Juggernaut, with him also doing the facial capture for the character as well. Treated unfairly, the Juggernaut was placed in the sequel for him to duke it out with the Deadpool's pal, Colossus. And while Colossus was not being done the justice of the live action, and he's still not showing his true power, but that is besides the point. The real question is how and why these two behemoths are the way they are.
You robbed the bank and left me to get the blame. How could you do this to a fellow mutant?
Well, Colossus is a mutant with the ability to transform his skin into an organometallic substance, making him practically invulnerable, giving him increased strength. Juggernaut, on the other hand, is a massive mountain of a man who has increased strength and durability, and once he builds up a momentum, you would not want to stand in his way. And his helmet doesn't have a thing to do with his abilities, but is rather there as a form of protection from the likes of Charles Xavier, who is his stepbrother in the Marvel comics. There's a lot of magical nonsense about how Marco became the Juggernaut, something which has not shown in the sequel, but all you have to know is that in the comics, Marco became the Juggernaut when he discovered a ruby in the temple of the mystical entity Cyttorak. The important thing to know is that despite him being electrified in the water, he was able to come back, and that's due to his nigh unkillable durability and his healing factor that almost matches the likes of Wolverine. Which brings us to the next topic, the Deadpool sequel. From this detail alone gives us a hint that the Juggernaut is alive and well, and that maybe there's a future for him moving forward, maybe even as a character taking part in the wider MCU. But before we go into all of that, let's reflect upon Juggernaut's character, what his debut means for the MCU, and what could possibly bring the spotlight that was already given to him in the second Deadpool movie. In the comics, Kane Marco, aka Juggernaut, served as one of the deadliest mutants out there as the avatar of the dark god Cyttorak, with his history rightfully giving him the status of being one of the strongest beings in the Marvel Universe. Knowing that Marco's strength and his title as a Juggernaut is a gift from Cyttorak, we also came to learn that the malevolent deity is willing to grant his powers to someone else if in this case Marco falls short of his expectations, something that has happened in the comics so far, with the same powers given to Colossus himself, with him being the blessing that Cyttorak spoke for so long, a chain of events that eventually made Colossus one of the strongest beings in the entire universe, many times stronger than Marco's time as the Juggernaut, which is bad news, fellas, if you haven't already knew that. This so-called blessing of Cyttorak transformed the steel-skinned gentle giant into a being so powerful and violent that even he didn't recognize him. The reason behind all this was because Cyttorak was able to enhance all of the powers that Colossus already possessed. However, Cyttorak's powers came with a disability as well. Colossus often became consumed by bloodlust, causing him to become more violent in combat, not being able to distinguish his friends from his enemies. Although magic was able to release Colossus from Cyttorak's grip, there's a possibility that Colossus could fuse with the same power in the MCU, with him already butting heads with Kane Marco, establishing a rivalry that can continue in the future. Disney's acquisition of Fox's rights to the X-Men could also bring Cyttorak to the MCU, and if that happens, then the MCU will be in for a world of hurt.
I'm gonna melt you
down and make
X-Men are coming to the MCU, there's no doubt about it. As soon as the upcoming Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness with Professor X, who else leading the charge? An exciting prospect that will give the MCU an even bigger character exploration and even more stories to be told, which seems to be the case for the Juggernaut we last saw in Deadpool 2, with him rumored to make an appearance in the She-Hulk Disney Plus series. Depicted as a half-hour comedy featuring Tatiana Maslany in the lead role, the She-Hulk series was set to have primarily a legal setting. Jessica Walters is a local lawyer who stumbles upon a blood transfusion from her cousin Bruce Banner, aka the Hulk. With rumors involving him to be defended in court against the likes of Juggernaut, this is all just a rumor, so don't take our word for it just yet. Despite the fact that if something like this even comes to mind, there has to be something behind the idea of it, right? Over the last couple of months, there has been a swarm of speculations and rumors that almost every next Marvel project will be featuring a mutant, with the likes of Rogue even getting her own spin-off series, something that has already been confirmed from Disney. So we don't see anything strange if we see another mutant make an appearance in the She-Hulk series, with that individual being the Juggernaut, possibly as Kane Marco before he gets that devastating title. Juggernaut getting into action in a comedy show should make for plenty of laughs. Despite him not being the most charming character or the one who talks much, he likes to deal with things head-on from what we've seen so far. Nevertheless, the next appearance from the Juggernaut or even Marco could hint toward him being to some extent planned for a future Marvel project, one that will be set in the wider MCU, but also a project that will likely come when it's most convenient for the ever-growing MCU.
I'm gonna melt you.
On a related note, tell us down in the comments below, what do you think about the live-action adaptation of the Juggernaut character? Do you think what we have seen so far deserves the next outing of him, maybe even in a spin-off series or standalone movie, one that would connect him to the wider MCU and the arrival of other mutants? And if so, where would you like to see him make a mess next? But also, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon if you'd like to see more videos like this in the future. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time. Until then, take care and stay happy.